Well, here we are. Dark Souls Remastered. Potentially one of the greatest games ever made. Definitely my favorite game of all time. Dark Souls Remastered, well, more correctly, the original Dark Souls, released on the PS3 and Xbox 360 back in 2011, September, I believe. This game has changed the scope and the whole gaming sphere and industry as a whole since its release. It's as inspirational or influential as Skyrim and the like. It's a huge game that affected a lot of people, myself included, and it's just, the memories flood back into me. I've played this game for over a decade. Only occurred to me now to record a playthrough of it. Not necessarily for others to watch and enjoy. I mean, if you want to, you're more than welcome to. But it's more of a way for me to put my love for the game sort of into existence, into physical existence, and have it recorded and kept as a sort of timesake, almost like a museum, I guess, of me just walking through the game and experiencing everything I can, and this time immortalizing it in these forms of videos. Now, these videos are going to be quite long. Let me just see what time it is now. I'm going to try and aim for it to be an hour long, or just short of an hour, just so that I can record it and upload it and not suffer too much with the massive size of the videos. Well, I think enough talking. Let me just get into it, and I'll walk through the entire game, through all the levels, and I'll add some bits of my knowledge and experience with the game. Hopefully, I don't die too much. I hope so. There's not too much repeats in this series. I'm fairly confident I can do that. Um, yeah, honestly, just enjoy the show. Sit back and relax, and I'm just gonna start a timer so I know I can play this for about an hour. Uh, there we are. Let's begin. Gonna be playing offline just for total immersion. Just immediately off, you have the one of the most gorgeous sounding pieces of music, and I can't tell you how many times I've fallen asleep to it, how many times I've listened to it, just out and about, or even at home, at school. This game has really been with me more years than it hasn't. I've known Dark Souls longer than I haven't. That's how much it's been a part of my life. And I'm so happy to be able to play this on the piano. I learned it earlier this year, and it was one of the bigger things that I was looking forward to. Always looked forward to playing this and a few other pieces as well in this game. Every track is just wonderful, especially the more somber, calm um, tracks. So you can choose whether you go male or female. I'll stick to male. Class, here you have multiple different classes. They're not too important, and they don't really change the gameplay that much. Maybe for the early game, the first 5-10 hours, it would matter, but later on, they blend into each other, and it doesn't actually matter too much. So here we have the warrior. He's a fearless warrior, weapon expert, high in strength and dexterity. So all around average. We have the knight with obviously heavier armor, you can see. He's a low ranking knight, high HP, solid armor, and not easily toppled, so he doesn't stagger easily. Wanderer, he's an aimless wanderer, wields a scimitar with high dexterity, so more of a skillful warrior. Thief, a guilt-ridden thief. I wonder what he did. High critical hits, and has a master key as a default. High critical hits just means backstabs and parries and counterattacks, stuff like that. Has a Master Key, which is quite powerful, but I'll talk about it a little more later on. Bandit, a Savage Bandit, high in strength, wields heavy battle axe, so sort of the opposite of a Wanderer, I would say. A Hunter, a bow-wielding hunter, so that's his specialty. He's okay at close range, but weak with magic. Fair. A sorcerer. Sorcerer of Vinheim. Vinheim is a dragon skull. Oh, there we go, it says it. Casts all sorceries. Pyromancer. He's a swamp pyromancer of the Great Swamp. Casts fire spells and wields a hand axe. Okay. Cleric. A cleric on pilgrimage. He wields a mace and casts healing miracles. So if you're going for a more faith-oriented playstyle. Deprived, finally. Unclothed Enigma. Only armed with club and an old plank shield. So not really the most noteworthy one, I would say. I will stick with Knight. And I will combine elements of miracles and faith. So I'm going to be sort of a paladin. That'll be my sort of playstyle in this walkthrough. You can select a gift as well. You have the Goddess's Blessing, which is Divine Holy Water, fully restores HP and status ailments. So just a full reset, a cleanse, a body cleanse, if you will. Black Fire Bomb explodes upon impact when thrown, more deadly than standard bomb, not STD bomb as some people would say. Twin Humanities, tiny sprite called Humanity, sometimes found on carcasses. Interesting wording. Binoculars. Binoculars used to peer at faraway sights. The Pendant. It's a trinket with no effect, but fond memories comfort travelers. So if you want to get into the more immersive role-playing aspect, you would go with the Pendant. Master Key, there we go. Opens any basic lock, initial equip for Thief. This is honestly game-breaking. As a first-time player, you probably want to avoid it because it opens so many different routes through the game that it sort of breaks the pacing of the game. Which isn't that bad in most games, but when it comes to Dark Souls 1, I think pacing and the reveal of certain things, certain shortcuts, will be spoiled using this. And as a first-time player experiencing the game, you want to avoid that as much as possible. You don't want to spoil your own experience for yourself. So I will be avoiding that. Tiny Beings Ring. Special Tribal Ring. Grants small increase to HP. The wording has changed since the original. The original game said that it was a gradually increasing HP, or something along the lines of that, so it made people believe that it was a regenerative ring. But there's a lot to talk about with this, but before Dark Souls 1 was Demon Souls, and in Demon Souls there were items, certain equipment that would gradually restore your HP, just passively, which completely broke the game in the sense that it made it a lot easier and you never really had to worry about healing and things like that. But they've all but gotten rid of that in Dark Souls 1. They made it so that, you know, to get to the next area, you will need to save up your resources. You can't use up all your healing at the start and then have to stretch through the final half of the level without any heals. You would most likely not survive. So they got rid of that passive heals, and instead we have this, which is just a small increase of HP, which is nice for a few beginners. I would recommend it. Old Witch's Ring, gift from a witch, ancient ring with no obvious effect. This is more like story, lore, a little bit. There are some implications for it, but as a beginner, you're not really missing out on much if you decide not to take this. I, however, will go for the binoculars. I think as a walkthrough and me demonstrating the game, I'd like to have that on hand so I can give you certain viewpoints and sights and things, so that'll be mine. Physique. doesn't really matter. I will go with slim. Face, doesn't really matter. You can choose your, it's not really races, it's not like Skyrim. It's just different presets of face. So you have a commoner, a farmer, someone from Astora, someone from the Dragon School, which is Vinheim, Katarina, Karim, Xena, the Great Swamp, and some Eastern descent, I suppose. So you're sort of choosing the different country that you hail from, Karim and Katarina and Thorland and Vinheim. Those are all very big names in Dark Souls 1, and you will see many people who hail from those different countries. But for myself, I think I'll just go with the commoner. Doesn't really matter too much. Hair, I mean, it doesn't change gameplay whatsoever. But I'll go with this. I'll go with a dark brown. Why not? Let's accept, and now you'll be seeing a cutscene which is fairly long, but it is amazing and the visuals are just gorgeous, so I wouldn't advise skipping it, and it tells a lot about the lore. It's just some really useful information that a beginner should learn about the lore of the world. So here I'll start it and enjoy.
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog. A land of grey crags, arch trees, and everlasting dragons. But then there was fire, and with fire came disparity. Heat and cold, life and death, and of course, light and dark. Then from the dark they came and found the souls of lords within the flame. Nito, the first of the dead. The Witch of Izalith and her daughters of Chaos. Gwyn, the Lord of Sunlight, and his faithful knights. And the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons. Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone skins. The witches weaved great firestorms. Nito unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark sign. Yes, indeed. The dark sign brands the undead. And in this land, the undead are corralled and led to the north. Where they are locked away to await the end of the world. This is your fate.
Well, that was quite a lot to unpack, more so than I expected. Uh, yeah, probably too much for someone who is completely unfamiliar with anything to do with the lore or anything with the game to just be dumped this whole entire exposition. But what I like about that cinematic is how it's told in a more, it's almost like a tale, something like everyone should know. Kind of like in real life, how you have these biblical stories, of all the different religions, not just Christianity, but you have these like stories. It's like, I don't know, it's read almost, I don't want to say bedtime story, but it's like it's some lore that everyone in the world would know. It's like something people would recite or something. And I find that really cool. That's awesome. And I mean, more current is this cinematic that that knight from above dropped a key into a dropped a body into our cell, which contains a key on it. Sorry, I was a little jumpy there. Um, Let me just fix the settings a little bit. I think I'm gonna raise the music up a little bit. Bring the UI down a little. Gonna keep the blood to mild. Turn the HUD on. Alright, so a few things that we need to know at the start is, first of all, we're in a asylum, which is more like a prison, I would say, than anything else. And we have hollowed, or become undead, I guess would be the more accurate term, which means undying, which means we can't die. Why can't we die? Because we have this thing on us, this like weird little root structure on our chest. And let me just cover that, it's quite ugly. Basically, we've been branded with a curse of never dying. I mean, some people might see that as a blessing, but I think most people would be depressed at that proposition. So it's the dark sign. It's the curse that we carry. So let me read it. Dark sign. The dark sign signifies a accursed undead. Those branded with it are reborn after death. but will one day lose their minds and go hollow. Death triggers the dark side, which returns its bearer to the last bonfire rested at, but at the cost of all his humanity and souls. So, if you have this sign, you immediately recognize that that's an undead. And humans fear the undead, and so the most logical thing to do, if you can't kill something, would be to lock it away until the end of the world, as they say. So that's fairly logical, I would say. It's not too much of a stretch to believe the events so far. You don't have to suspend your disbelief or anything. It's fairly logical, I would say. People have been locked up for worser things, and also for lesser things. Uh, let's see. This is the key that was dropped into our cell. Key to the dungeon of the Undead Asylum to the north. A mysterious knight, without saying a word, shoved a corpse down into the cell, and on its person was this key. Who was this knight, and what was his purpose? There may be no answers, but one must still forge on ahead. I love the way the item description things sort of, they almost go along with the plot of the game, and I love the wording of it, and it's just another added layer of immersion. It's brilliant. It's great. We start off with a sword, or what resembles a sword. It says here, the hilt of this lost sword was found discarded in the Undead Asylum. Only slightly better than one's bare hands, and not recommended for extensive use. Be certain to find a replacement quick. And that we will do. We also start with some really nice looking armor, obviously from the class that we selected. It's just a standard lower rank knight. Despite the thin metal used, the groove texture gives it added protection, and it's mainly the same. So that's pretty much what we have. We do have the binoculars that we started with, and apparently it's crafted from Astora, which is quite interesting. Alright, let's begin. Man, just everything from the ambience to the sound of the torches, the sound of the footsteps, the obviously very menacing, imposing view that you're given right at the start. It's just phenomenal. Playing this game back when it released and not knowing anything about it and having to just be thrust into this world so viciously. It's amazing. I also hope it's not too dark. I might raise it up a little bit. Here we are outside, but still within the confines of the prison. We have to work our way out of this. And this is our first bonfire. As of right now, we don't really have that many options. I also I like these subtle, obviously I don't think it's intentional whatsoever, but I like that the only option you have is leave, which is sort of your objective at the moment, is to leave the asylum. But that's me reading a bit too much into it. But I like that. I do. As we read before, the dark sign is attached to the bonfires for a mysterious reason, but the reason will become apparent as we go through the game. Well, quite late in the game. Excuse me. Alright. We have these big ominous looking doors. that open into a equally ominous big room. Lots of pots or jars. And there we just had our first introduction with bosses in the game, and what a entrance, honestly. It is spectacular how that entrance just sort of shoves it into your face that this is going to be a very difficult game. One of the first enemies, nonetheless, you know. Oh, we picked up a shield. A medium metal shield decorated with a tower, the symbol of protection. A standard widely used shield. I suppose if you're a fan of chess and you really enjoy the rooks for some reason, you know, this would be a wonderful looking shield for you. I enjoy the knight more, honestly. We're doing practically no damage towards him. But he's not letting up. And picked up a sword, which reads, oh well, just gotta make sure I'm not being hit. It reads, the wide blade of this straight sword emphasizes slicing, but has no thrusting attack. The horizontal sweeping motion makes this sword effective against multiple enemies. So basically, it doesn't have any stab animation. So it's more of a wide sweeping thing, which can be a slight concern in tight areas because your swords can bounce off walls, which can be quite frustrating if you're, especially somewhere like here. Just walk through that fog wall. Just takes us back to this outside courtyard, but this time we're on the first floor. Can explore a little bit. We have this broken set of stairs, which lead to an item that we can't access at the moment. And this corridor, which I have a lot to say about, even though it has nothing of interest. I love these types of things in games. It's not too common that you find it, and really not too common that you find a game that even does this in the first place. But areas and levels that have completely redundant and useless areas, doors that lead into empty rooms, or passageways and corridors that are just dead ends, no purpose whatsoever. It adds so much to the immersion and to the immersive quality of the game. If everything has a use for the player, it feels more like a game. Whereas, I mean, in real life, you know, not every room has an explicit purpose to you. It might have a purpose to somebody else, but not necessarily to you. And especially as the player, you're walking into different areas, you're walking into different cities. You know, you don't belong there. And so some rooms don't have an explicit purpose to you, but it might hold some value to others. And so you sort of feel like you're invading somebody else's home. Well, I wouldn't call this a home for anybody, but you get the point. It is amazing. Well, here we just opened a shortcut back to the bonfire. One of the first shortcuts. Not too meaningful, but there are many shortcuts in this game, and a lot of them are um, truly, um, just they make the game, honestly. Well, I'm glad we can open this door because behind it, as you know, was that boss, and we'd want to avoid that as much as possible. And there you have one of the few gotcha moments in the game where you sort of don't really have that much time to react to a first time playing the game. But it teaches you to be a little alert. I like it. And it opened this hole in the wall.
Oh, you. You're no hollow, hmm? Thank goodness. I'm done for, I'm afraid. I'll die soon, then lose my sanity. I wish to ask something of you. You and I, we're both undead. Hear me out, will you? Regrettably, I have failed in my mission, but perhaps you can keep the torch lit. There is an old saying in my family, "Thou who art undead art chosen, and thine exodus from the undead asylum maketh pilgrimage to the land of ancient lords. When thou ringeth the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know." Well, now you know, and I can die with hope in my heart. Oh, one more thing. Here, take this. An Estus flask, an undead favorite. Oh, and this. Now I must bid farewell. I would hate to harm you after death. So go now, and thank you.
What a noble knight with a lot of words of advice to be giving to us. Such a shame that he dies off so early on and with barely any chance to see him again. But as a knight, as a fellow knight, we must follow his words and take up on his prophecy that he was trying to fulfill, which is ringing the bell of awakening and finding out the fate of the undead. Which sounds like something that would concern us, seeing as we're undead as well. So just progressing through the asylum, trying to find our way out of here. Mm-hmm. This door is currently inaccessible. And it seems like we have no choice but to fight him. So here we are. He's right below us. And there we have it. Slain the beast and obtained the key. I'm just gonna lower the music because it is quite loud. I think leaving it on 3 and this on 5 would be more sound. Well, what a exhilarating fight. And now we have the key to this door. The pilgrim's key, so we can make our pilgrimage out of here. But as you can see, we are way up in the north, in a very mountainous region. No chance we're getting down from here. Just an absolutely gorgeous view. And the audio of the wind, it really does feel like you could just be blown off the cliff right now. Amazing. And there's a shot of the asylum. Such a creepy looking place. I mean, who would want to stay here at all? Oh, look at that. That is wonderful.
Only in the ancient legends it is stated that one day an undead shall be chosen. To leave the undead asylum in pilgrimage to the land of the ancient lords. Lordran.
And there we have it. Firelink Shrine. Perhaps one of the more iconic, most iconic areas in all of the Souls franchise. The whole series altogether. This is the safe area where you can rest and check up on your gear and prepare for the next expeditions that you'll be carrying on throughout the game. Which is this truly calming, beautiful track playing in the background. It's just nothing like it. It feels almost dreamlike in some way. And here in Lordran, the bonfires have a enhanced ability where you can empower yourself through leveling up. And I'm gonna put a few points into endurance.
Well, what do we have here? You must be a new arrival. Let me guess. Fate of the undead, right? Well, you're not the first. But there's no salvation here. You'd have done better to rot in the undead asylum. But too late now. Well, since you're here, let me help you out. There are, actually, 2 bells of awakening. One's up above in the undead church. The other is far, far below, in the ruins at the base of Blight Town. Ring them both, and something happens. Brilliant, right? Not much to go on. But I have a feeling that won't stop you. So, off you go. It is why you came, isn't it? To this accursed land of the undead?
So, there's a little update to our mission. There are actually 2 bells that we have to ring. One way up above and one way down below. Both sound incredibly difficult and tough and very lengthy. But out of the 2 options, I think most people would think going up would sound better and safer and brighter than going down into some place called Blight Town. So we should take the staircase up. But let's explore a little bit. And I'll be going up these stairs in the next video. But for now, we'll just spend a little bit of time in the Firelink Shrine and see if there's any interesting points that need mentioning.
Hello there. I believe we are not acquainted. I am Petrus of Thoroland. Have you business with us? If not, I'd prefer to keep a distance, if possible.
Something which I quite enjoy about the game is how the non-playable characters, the NPCs, they don't really bow down to the player. You know, they have their own interests, their own goals, things that they want to do and accomplish that don't include you. You're not the focus of the story, of anybody's story, except your own, and I like that.
Hello there. I realize that I have requested that we retain our distance, but I also want you to know that it is not meant in ill will. Here, take this, as a token of peace. No, go ahead. It's for you.
Very kind of him. He gave us a token of peace, which is just a coin. A coin made of copper. Its face shows Old Man McCloyf, god of medicine and drink. Even coins of great value in the world of men have little value in Lordran, where the accepted currency is souls. Those who dream of returning to the outside world, however, are fond of carrying these around. So the fact that he's carrying coins implies that he doesn't want to be stuck here in Lordran for too long, which is pretty sane if you ask me. The sound that you're hearing is actually a pretty large crow from the cutscene earlier. He's just sitting here watching over me. I'd say it's closer to a griffin than a crow, just from the size of it. Well, I guess it's more of a raven. Sadly, we can't interact with it. Only look at it from afar. Which is how you're supposed to treat animals in the wild anyway. And I will be playing this game in the lens of a knight, meaning I won't be doing things that a honorable knight wouldn't do. You know? I'm not gonna kill people that haven't harmed me. I'm not gonna harm people who need help. We have some lady locked in some sort of prison. Not too different than ours, but at least she has some sort of view into the outside world and people coming in. But she's trapped there for a inexplicable reason. With no door or anything, she's just resigned to her fate. It's quite a grim image, just the pose that she's in complete defeat. What a shot. And we have some stairs going further down. This is still Firelink Shrine all the way. Takes us down into this dark chamber, which houses a elevator that goes all the way down. And this place might look a little creepy, but I can assure you that underneath this elevator are things far creepier and unnerving than anything we've seen so far. And so some things should just be left as is for now. And so that's pretty much all there is to Firelink Shrine. There are a few items and things that I've neglected to pick up, just because it's a walkthrough. I mean, it's a playthrough, not a walkthrough, so I'm not going to be showing you where all the items are and what's the best things to use. It's not that type of video. I'm just walking through the game, showing you the different areas, talking about things, and just getting immersed as much as possible into this wonderful game that has been crafted by an amazing team, FromSoft team, with the head of the team being Hidetaka Miyazaki, which is probably the most recognizable name when it comes to JRPGs, simply for creating this game. A little more detail, I suppose. Firelink Shrine, it's somewhere in the heart of the world. In terms of elevation, it's about middle of the way, I would say. It's higher than sea level, but not nearly as high as the highest points you can get in the game, and nowhere near the bottom points that you can go in the game. And so it rests quite beautifully in the center of the world in terms of elevation, and as well in terms of just horizontally. So it's truly in the heart of the world. And it branches off in many, many different areas. It can go up, can go down, can go in two different directions horizontally. It splits off a lot. And yeah, for subsequent playthroughs, when you're playing this game second time, third time, it's wonderful to be able to have so many different areas to tackle early on. Some, a little more challenging than others, especially the starting gear and things. But definitely doable, and there are a few incentives to do so. Some items, some gear, some equipment that you might want as the second time playing it. I'm gonna stick with the main path though. As I said, the master key, me not taking the master key and all that. I just want the truly casual experience, let's say. And I'm really looking forward to this. Next episode we'll be going upstairs, up the cliff, and into that bridge over there, and then progress further on, and hopefully make it to the first bell in short enough time. I know I talk a lot, and this isn't actually the first video that I've recorded. I've since had a channel get removed, which I'm quite upset about, but such is life, If one door closes, several others open. and I'm glad that I'm able to record this and upload it and just keep it as a time capsule, something that I can look back on in the future, something I could forward to friends or acquaintances, people who haven't heard of the game or would like to see me play it or something. I could just forward them this series, and I think that's more than adequate. Enough about me, though. Um, Thank you for watching. My time is running short. I think I only have 5 more minutes. I'm not going to be using all of that. I just thank you very much for watching. If you watched the whole thing, no skipping or anything, I'm really appreciative of that. I hope to see you in the next parts and until the end of the game. I hope that I don't burn out and just stop uploading in the middle of the game. I really want to push myself and finish this whole thing, at least during this month of July. Well, that's all there really is to say. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.